fiction, science fiction, horror, fantasy, crime, LGBT, thriller.
You have now entered the House of Mystery.
Well, welcome back into the House of Mystery. I'm Al Warren. We've got Mr. Michael Hawley in the room. Yeah.
Greetings, Al.
Yeah. So how you doing? So I see you're not in L.A. You're not doing.
I am not, although I just got another lectures they asked me to do. Somebody asked me to do in October, so that's kind of fun. So I'll get that going.
What's that on?
Same thing. The
Smoking?
Jack the Ripper lectures. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't gone into Canada to do that yet, so we're gonna request for those packages. But
Jack the Ripper. Well, I guess it's. I see that's kind of getting another surge in a way. I see a lot of stuff about that coming out again.
Well, yeah, especially the DNA, supposed DNA stuff, which is actually we debunked that a few years ago. But the guy, it's his third edition that he just came out with, and he wants to sell the shawl for $3 million. Wow. He's a businessman, so hey, he does great marketing. He gets on the news.
Yeah, because I see that. A lot of people will see that or hear it advertised, and they take it for gospel because they just go, oh, I guess they solved the case.
Yeah, and that's why they want me to talk about it, yeah. So
Yeah.
But, and it was interesting, the suspect I researched, he owned 3,000 acres near Toronto, so it's kind of interesting that we're going to talk to Desmond today.
Well, and so that's who we're talking to. We're talking to the newest suspect in the Jack the Ripper case. And right. He is Canadian, so look out. He's got it all up there, right? He's got the bad smokes and
that's right.
tariffs and all that, that stuff. And anyway, so in his newest book, his latest book is book 5 in his Mike O'Shea novel series, and that's called Dangerous Assumptions. So Desmond P. Ryan, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
Nice speaking with you, Desmond.
Nice to speak to you as well. And now that you've, I want that guy on my marketing team.
That's right.
Because I've got lots of old clothes I can sell, and if you can tie them into my books, that would be great.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Just say there's some DNA on it that belongs to a victim, and you are Jack the Ripper's great whatever.
See, there it is.
Grandson.
I'm a friend of the guy who cuts the hair for the neighbor of Jack the Ripper's great grandson.
That's all you need.
Oh yeah, that's close. We're tight.
That's right.
Can you imagine? That would be a great life, So what's going on with you? So book 5, you're really getting into this, Mike O'Shea, aren't you? You're just
just cranking them out.
Just cranking them out. Yeah.
It's a 6-book story arc. So this is the 5th book. So I have one more to go, and that should be out next year. And I just realized I've been writing this series for about 12 years now. This is the longest relationship I've ever had.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Aside from policing.
Wow. Well, so why the sudden change? Why are you spending so much time with Mike? Are you got something to tell us about you and Mike?
Well, we're just hanging out, and after this much time, we know each other quite well. But honestly, I'm thinking that by book 6, I'm done with that whole story. I've had enough. I hope readers don't. I think they should just keep buying these books by the dozens. But that's the end of the line for Mike.
Did you originally plan on 6 books with Mike?
I did, because I have an overriding story arc, and I made a tactical error in, I wrote a prequel which sets everything up, but nothing gets resolved in the prequel. And so readers got really, really angry because they dedicated, hours of their lives with no closure. And all the other books, they have their homicides within the story arc. But and I get it, right? Because if I was going to spend hours of my life with no closure, I would just have my regular life. I wouldn't have to read a book for that.
Exactly. Just get up every day.
Exactly.
It just keeps on going.
And hours later, here I am.
Yeah, that's right. Telling us about it. So Well, so what have you got going on in book 5? Like, what's the premise of this edition of his book series?
In this book, because all of the homicides that occur, I'm not a factual guy like you two, but they are all homicide investigations I've been involved in as a Toronto police detective. So I kind of take a little bit from what I know and then sort of pretty it up or make it worse, whichever the case may be, and go from there. So in this one, it's the murder in real life, it was also kind of cool because a call comes over for 2 people who we figured were dead in their little apartment that was at the back of a dog groomer's. When the uniform officers get there, one person is dead, the other has a slight pulse, but the guy who's alive has lain there for 3 or 4 days with just the slightest of pulses. So that whole discoloration has set in that would normally set in decomposition. So it's really kind of freaky. Now he ends up living in real life, but it was really odd because it took a while for his blood to circulate and all that stuff enough for the discoloration to come out of his face, and so it was a little off-putting talking to him for a few days.
Wow.
Sorry.
Yeah, we're all good.
That was a lot. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a lot. I'm going to have to go home now. No.
All right. And meanwhile, like Jack the Ripper. Let's go back to that.
Yeah, let's go back to Jack. Yeah, once they find out you're Jack, they'll be buying these books for like crazy,
Oh, well, there you go.
So, listen, what do you want to achieve with Michael Shea? Because when you say you had 6-book idea and everything's going, did you have something? Of course, there's the beginning, the middle, and you have them going through things and things happening. But was there a place you wanted to see him get to?
It's kind of that hero's journey where at the end, good has to triumph and all that. And in this book, he's like on a serious downward spiral. And it was really hard to write because he's just, he has that casual alcoholism, which is like, you go out, after work every day for a couple of pints that become 5 pints that become like 8 pints.
What's wrong with that, by the way?
Sorry, it's casual. It's very casual. Nothing wrong with that at all. But then he also, because he's had a series of on-duty accidents, and injuries, he's starting to take all kinds of painkillers. And again, that same thing where well-meaning people end up self-medicating because they're in a lot of pain. And then the physical pain gives way. And it's just, it's not just, but it's emotional pain. And so he's basically, boozing and drugging and trying to keep himself going. And he's really, really struggling. And so the people around him are without calling him out, are trying to get him back on the straight and narrow. So it's an interesting story about sort of friendship as well as within the policing environment where corporate liability kicks in versus, I'm just your buddy saying, get your shit together.
Is that when he sees the doctor in book 5 and they say no more drinking and coffee and all that?
No, that was somebody else.
Oh.
No.
That's the other Mike story.
That was my doctor.
We had the same doctor.
I think so. But no, basically it's a case of you have some decisions to make, right? Like, and for him, because he's the hero, he still has capacity to make those decisions, as opposed to the addictions have taken over, and he's no longer capable of it. And so by book 6, he has to get his shit together, and they have to resolve the story arc, and everything has to mystically come together. And I was thinking like maybe having Glinda the Good Witch in it in book 6, and her just saying, Michael, all you had to do was click your heels, and you could return home at any time. Yeah. Oh man, I just gave away the whole ending of my series. I'm such an idiot.
Yeah.
So that's where the ruby slippers went. That's the true story.
Yeah. And then, and you guys can write about the crime, like the true crime of the ruby slippers. Like, where
yes.
They're here.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, all laughing aside, but it's a pretty serious situation when you talk about addictions, and you're talking about someone that's in a life, so they're working and they're responsible. They're supposed to be trying to, do things and get through. And then you're talking about an addiction, kind of towering over this man's life and stuff. So, but I know that when you're doing this, in a way, it's like living with the addiction. It's not that you are doing it yourself, but it's like having someone living with you that's going through this. You know what I mean? So I was going to say, how is that for you writing? It's got to be an up and down sort of thing.
It was really exhausting, and wow, I had to write lots of words that were upsetting. But emotionally, it was really draining. Because again, like you said, you kind of have to get into the mindset of this guy, and here he is. He's pushing through. He's had a whole life. A lot of really bad things have happened, and he's just trying to get to the other side. And one of the things is, like, through the whole story arc, he's trying to find the guy who murdered his partner in book 1. And this guy's always been looming, this murderer. He's been looming in the background. And so Mike doesn't understand why they haven't been able to arrest him. At the time his partner got murdered, they had, every police service in the world looking for him. Why did this guy get found? Well, this is now 20 years later. People are forgetting. It's not so important. And Mike gets sort of tagged as conspiracy guy. And he's saying, no, it's fresh in my mind. So it's that whole idea of resolving things and keeping things sort of in the forefront so they just don't get forgotten. So he's really struggling.
Throughout your books, with this time, technology changes so fast. Have you had to maybe add a few more, like an iPhone as opposed to old style flip phones or BlackBerry? Yes.
Well, actually, Michael, it's interesting you bring that up, because originally when I wrote this, I was thinking I'll do every book will take a place in successive years, but then COVID hit, and and as writers, like, what do you do with COVID? I mean, you can't just pretend it never happened. And whether it's true crime or fiction, you have to, like, policing changed dramatically as a result of COVID. And so what I had to do was squeeze 3 books or 3 years worth of life into about a year and a half. And because right at the end of the last book is going to be March of 2020, just before the world shut down. And so, looking at the relationship building, it had to be hurried along quite a bit. And the technology things that were coming out, trying to remember, what did we have in 2019? What didn't we have? And things have changed so much in the last 3 or 4 years, even in technology and policing, that it's mind-blowing, and just sort of thinking like, no, we didn't have that then. So it's been a bit of a challenge.
So policing now is Zoom.
Yeah, pretty much.
They just sit at home and do the Zoom thing. I'm on this road.
Yeah, and they've got like Google Maps. It's like, I can see the crime scene. Yeah, it's there. And that's pretty much
Well, so with your character now, remind me, do you picture who Mike O'Shea is? Do you have an image of this person, a size, a shape, how they look, how they sound? Do you hear them? Do you know what I mean? Like, do you have all that, or is that just not there?
It is to a degree. I mean, I couldn't name, an actor or something. I'm thinking I'm probably someone like you, really. That sort of masculine kind of presence. That's what I'm gunning for. No, but the thing about, on the one hand, this guy is extraordinary, and that he's able to overcome unbelievable beatings and tremendous emotional stress and drugs and alcohol and all that stuff. But I also wanted him to be very relatable and very ordinary. So he's not particularly tall, he's not short, he's not, jacked. He's just a guy. And he's just a guy who happens to be able to get through stuff. And that's what I saw him as.
You said that you had a new partner that he's going to have, and some of the twists and turns with that partner.
Yeah, one of the things that was kind of interesting is when I wrote this, like, had the idea of the story arc, like, way back in, I don't know, 2012, 2013. About the mid story, I thought what would be neat, like in the books, is to have one of the people that Mike basically went through training with. So this person has been on the job for 20, 25 years, like Mike has, and this person is sort of built like a brick shithouse. Big, strong guy, and he comes out as a transgender woman. And so that's what Blind Spot, a lot of that is about, her having had her gender affirmation surgery, returning back to work, trying to now navigate the world as a woman. And she's a very, very tall woman, like she doesn't look like, a drag queen in any event. She stands out, sort of navigating her life and her self-actualization in the process. And it was an interesting process. I mean, one of the things I did in Blind Spot is she and Mike are partners, and they have to go to a women's shelter. And the policy there is no men are allowed inside the shelter. And so his partner, whose name is Carla goes in, and then some of the women are saying, no, this is a trans woman, this is the man, this is no. But then they kind of debate about it, and they end up not allowing her to stay in the shelter to interview the people, not because she's a trans woman, but because she's a cop.
Well, did you have that for a reason? Is there some sort of subtext in this book?
Well, in that book, because I think we talked about this before, I'm fundamentally quite lazy and very unimaginative. So I tend to draw on things that I've done, I'm familiar with, and experiences I've been a part of. And years ago, somebody that I worked with came out as a trans woman and had a really difficult time. Like the laws in Canada were not in place then. And basically, she was bullied off of the police service. And in principle, that really bothered me. And so I thought, well, what I want to do is write a character like that in the book and make it work. And so that's kind of an homage to that officer.
So does this kind of writing, how does it affect you? Does it change you at all? Does it put you in a different place every time you finish a book?
Well, I think that's also one of the reasons why I'm pretty much ready to be done with this series, because I've got a couple other series on the go, and they tend to be more traditional and a lot lighter. And I think that this is kind of like it's like leaving policing is like getting a divorce, but I just had a really long separation. And now I think I'm kind of ready to be, in a lot of ways, done with writing about that. I mean, having said that, I could turn around and come up with another series next week. I don't know. But...
What, romance now instead?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I'm seeing that. Yeah. And probably, what is it? And there's so many subgenres now. So what we like prairie romance or something.
It's kind of, there's just, it's too much for me. You just... do whatever. What point of view you write from? Is it from Mike's point of view, or do you do it from an outside looking at him?
I do from an outside looking in as the sort of omniscient, I've lost my words, being able to see everything that's going on. Mostly because I think writing from a first person would be really, really hard. And you'd have to have a really compelling first person perspective. And I don't think I'm capable of doing that.
Oh, I wonder why. Why do you think that is?
Maybe it's just that I'm not that compelling. I don't know. I just, I mean, having said that, I'm working on another series now. It's a traditional, mystery series, and it's funny. I think it is anyway. And I'm doing it in the present, which is another real challenge to write like I have to go back and make sure I haven't written it in the past or anything, but everything that the reader is seeing is as the characters are seeing it. And that's kind of an interesting mind bend.
What was the biggest challenge in this series so far? Or what has been?
I think it was remembering all the characters. Just in the sense that I know you're supposed to have like your character lists and all that, and every time I start a book, I think, yeah, I should do a character list, and I never do. But you know, like the secondary characters, like the little details about them that make them unique, because you know, as you know, it could take you forever to write a book, and somebody who's a quick reader reads it in a couple hours, and they pick up the next book. Probably somebody who can read way faster than me could probably read the whole series in 2 or 3 days. And so they would, they want the same characters in each book being the same way. And I found that hard.
Yeah. And yeah. But you don't want to make mistakes on little details, because then they'll pick it out and then they'll give you a bad review.
Well, yeah, they'll give me like a half star. I don't know why people bother. If it's not bad, don't say anything. It's like,
yeah.
It's like, no, this really sucked and it was too expensive. 1 star. It's like, what?
Yeah. I was young. My mother always told me, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say it, right? Whatever that old saying, whatever. Mm-hmm. So, of course, so I'm always nice.
Yes, absolutely.
It stayed with me, I practiced that. Yeah.
The other thing that was challenging was not to get, also when I'm describing crime scenes is not, because people think they want to know what they look like, but they really don't. So not to get too graphic, because it could be seen as gratuitous, and not to get too technical, because it's seen as boring. But that's kind of a challenge too.
Yeah, because where do you draw the line there, right? Because you want it to be, because all the CSI and all that stuff that's been on TV, CSIs, and that people are kind of looking for it, but you don't want to be overkill. But if you don't have any, then you're less than. I don't know. I just that'd be a tough one, I think, for me. I don't think I'd be able to decide, because you don't want it to be a dump of information.
Well, and that's it. And if there's something that you want to be able to explain to the reader that might be a little complex, you don't just to write it so it isn't an information dump, because you're just going to skip over it, and who cares?
Yeah, it's got to be important to the story. It's got to be something that you can kind of describe. It's all interesting. So how do you do it then with the murders or anything violent? Do you just kind of talk about it in a distance or in a past tense situation, or do you start out with the murder itself and have it really kind of what went on, or how do you do that then?
Well, with the murders, and I was thinking about why I do this, and as I said, I'm fundamentally lazy, is because in my life experience, as a detective, I don't get there till somebody's dead. So I don't see what happened before. So basically, there's the body, figure it out. Right? So, I don't know, there's some weird rule in writing where, if it's going to be a mystery, you have to drop the body in, I think, the first third of the book, or 3 comes in there somewhere. I drop the body right away. Like, boom, we're done. Let's go.
So do you have the reader experience that murder, or is that something that has been done and they have to kind of be like the detective that kind of try to glean out what happened?
Yeah, it's already been done. Now, in, I think, 3 of the books, Mike gets involved in some pretty significant sort of all-out battles. And in those, like in one, he's getting basically beaten to death with a metal pipe. Obviously, he doesn't die, or else it would have been a 2-book series. But there is that whole sense of the sound the pipe makes, like when it hits your head, and how the blood spews and all of that sort of thing. And again, it's explaining it as it really is, without it being, like we said, like overkill.
Right. So you go out there and actually beat someone with a pipe and record it, and then you can write from that.
Yes, that's correct. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's, and then I can write the cost of the pipe off as a business expense.
Yeah.
And also and also my legal fees. For when I go to court, because I'm doing this for purely research values. Yes.
Yeah. Fantastic. What a good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow. You got it all together. That's great.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
only way to
Yeah. Sure.
So people are just dying to read your book.
be. Oh.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, appearing daily.
Yeah, this is real bad, I'll tell you. That's something only a person from Buffalo could say.
That's right.
So,
We got the wings.
yeah.
Yeah. and the crappy beer.
So how?
Sorry, did I say that?
Yeah, there you go. So how important are the secondary characters in these stories? Are they the ones that open up stuff or discover things, or are they just there for background? Like, where do you put them?
Well, sometimes, and I hope I'm not alone. Maybe I am. But sometimes, like, the characters just kind of get away from you. And so some of the secondary characters kind of become a little larger than life. And like the detective sergeant who's in charge of the actual homicide investigations is this huge character. And it's a real effort to kind of tamp her down and flip it to make sure Mike is the hero of the books. And so the books are character-driven to a large degree. But I have to keep reminding myself, Mike is the hero. So he's got to save the day.
Mike's always the hero. So
See? I like that.
There you go.
Well, but now, so with it being character driven, how do you get into the headspace, the mindsets of these people, these characters that are not like you? So now you've got, for instance, this new partner who's a trans woman. How are you writing that character? Like, what is it you do to put yourself into that character?
Well, I think I think we're a lot more alike than we think we are. And so you look at like that whole othering. You have somebody who is other, who has felt other their entire lives. And even though she's had the surgery, even though she's like the best dressed, female detective in the entire police service, she will always look like a trans woman in the sense of not being quite passable. And I think all of us, I don't know, like maybe you guys are much more cool than I am. Clearly you are. But I mean, I've always had that sense of places where I haven't felt where I quite fit, and no matter what I do, I won't. And so I just kind of draw basically from my own insecurity. And there's lots there, lots to work with.
Yeah. But that's true. I think that's probably one of the keys to writing something realistic, is if it has to ring true. And so you have to search yourself and relate to what you're writing, and it has to come from a sense of feeling something real, and that way your dialogue, everything will come out more, I don't know how to say it, but it's going to come out as if it's real.
Well, yeah, and like you look at whatever caused the feeling to happen, I think most feelings are fairly even across the board, that we've all had them. Like I do, Mike has a couple of flashbacks to when his dad died, and he was like, I don't know, 12 or 13, and his mom there were 3 other kids that were much younger, and they're at the grave, and she's sort of busy corralling them, and he's old enough to stand on his own, and so he feels that he wasn't getting the emotional support from that. I mean, my dad lived for a very long time. That wasn't my experience, but I think we've all felt that sense of, I'm not getting the emotional support I need for this traumatic experience.
Yeah, and your loss, you can transfer it somehow. That loss, that feeling of loss is still loss, and that feeling it's an adder. But I think that's the key to it. I think that's how you write it good, one thing that I was curious about was, why, out of all the things, why the back of a dog groomer?
Because in real life, that's where this happened.
Oh, okay.
And the other thing is, this dog grooming place, it had like a quasi-legal apartment in the back, but the dog groomer's place always stunk, right? Like wet dog, right? And dog farts and all that stuff, right? So that also, and in real life, allowed for 2 bodies to be decomposing on the other side of some drywall for a couple of days. Right? Whereas in real life, like, you'd pick up on that pretty quick.
Right. So it's good. Wow.
And there's also that sense of you think dog grooming, you're spending a lot of money to make your dog look good. People spend a lot of money on their pets and things like that. And just behind the wall, there's people who are living in these squalid conditions. So I wanted that little juxtaposition. Oh, that was a good word. I'm writing that one down.
Yeah, better. Hey, quickly write that down.
Yeah. Got that.
Yeah. Okay. You use that in the next novel.
Yeah, I might even call the next novel that. I'll look it up, see what it really means first, and then that's what I'll call it.
Yeah.
Very catchy.
Juxtaposition. Yeah. There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
That's a whole new series, actually.
I'm thinking so. I gotta go.
Yeah.
Well, listen. We want to talk about where people find you. Like, of course, social media, website, bars, strip joints. Like, where do people find Desmond? Like, where do you hang out?
Yeah. I hang out in any pub in Toronto that serves Guinness. I'm usually good there. My website is realdesmondryan.com, and on Insta it's Desmond P. Ryan. Because I think somebody took Real Desmond Ryan. Maybe they didn't, I don't know. And I'm on Facebook as Real Desmond Ryan as well.
Why real? Is there a fake one out there?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Well, I just, you never know. I mean, no one's ever wanted to be me, so I don't.
Well, yeah, I'm not overly concerned that, well, actually, the reason that I market myself as Desmond P. Ryan is, P is my middle initial, but there's a Desmond Ryan, actually there's a lot of them. In Ireland, that's not an uncommon name. And so if you just kind of Google it, there's like a whole pile of people who came up, and some of them are dead and all that sort of stuff. So I had to throw something different in. And at some point, I guess there might be so many, I'll just have to say that I am the real Desmond Ryan.
Yeah.
So,
No, the ones the other ones are behind the dog groomer wall.
Yeah, exactly. But I want to get the jump on that trend.
Yeah, you want to be in charge there. Yeah.
That's it, yeah.
Well, there you go. Well, I have to put the R in my name everywhere. Alan R. Warren, not because I'm sophisticated. It's because there's an Alan Warren from Toronto who is a pediatrician, I believe, and he had 3 or 4 books out before I even thought about writing.
Man.
Yeah, I know. So I had to put
This is a trilogy.
R
Same thing. Same with me, Michael L. Hawley.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So you have to do that, sort of thing. And,
yes. So it's not just we're stuck up.
yeah. Of course, now I have more books and I sell more than him. Oh, that's terrible. Yeah.
So, but maybe they're thinking they're buying his books.
Yeah, and they get mine. They go, "What is this garbage?"
This is way better than what I thought it was going to be. This is great.
No, they're not saying that. They're saying, "How could a doctor have written something this bad?" That's what they're saying. Oh, please, let's get real.
As long as nobody's calling you in the middle of the night saying, "My kid has this funny little cough. Could you listen?"
Yeah,
it's like, that'd be bad.
Yeah, no, because you wouldn't want to hear my answer. Anyway, let's not talk dirty. Well, everybody, get out there. This is important. It's book 5. You have to know what happens to Michael Shea. So, Dangerous Assumptions. Okay, now book 5, get it. And it's Desmond P. Ryan. Okay, he needs to pay the rent.
That's it. Get out there. Buy it. Buy lots of them.
Yeah.
Buy spares.
Yeah, rent's gone up. It's gone up a lot. You've heard the housing crisis. Come on.
Yeah, that's it.
Help a man out. Anyway.
That's right. Help a guy. Come on.
Well, thank you again for being here, Mr. Desmond.
Oh, it has been my pleasure, gentlemen. And
Nice speaking with you.
Yeah, it's been great, and I hope things are good with the wings in Buffalo.
That's correct.
This has been a production of the House of Mystery Radio Show. To find out more about our show, guests, or hosts, go to our website at houseofmysteryradio.com.